Hey, it's One Take Frank, and today I'm going to show you how to make breaded pork chops with a side of pasta with broccoli. So let's get to it. I kind of got all my ingredients a little bit laid out here. So the first thing we want to do is we want to take our pan that we're going to be cooking our pork chops in the oven in, just a regular baking pan, and I put like a little bit of olive oil on the bottom of the pan, as you can see that. And I'm going to just use my hand, and I'm going to just spread this olive oil all around the pan because we don't want the pork chops to stick to the pan, and this also kind of gives it like a little bit of a fried look on the bottom. And again, very lightly coated with olive oil. Don't want to have too much, don't want to get them too greasy, because there's a little bit of fat on the pork chop too that will kind of come off anyhow, so we just don't want the breading to stick to the pan. Alright, so once we got our olive oil spread over the bottom of our cooking pan, let me just wash this olive oil off my hands and we'll get started. Now this is a pretty quick recipe I like to use because you can make a pretty decent meal in probably about an hour and 15 minutes tops. So we're going to try to make good use of our time as we go along with this video. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to put there's 1 cup of breadcrumbs right there. I'm going to probably put another half a cup on it, so we're going to have 1.5 cup of breadcrumbs. Typically I just kind of pour them in the dish. I kind of know how much to look for without measuring, but that looks about right there. We could always add more. So that's our breadcrumb mixture. It's just plain breadcrumbs I'm going to use, and with that I'm going to put a little bit of dried parsley on top. We're going to mix that in, probably about a tablespoon of dried parsley. And then what I like to use is this Lawry's garlic salt. This is a garlic salt that has some herbs in it, and it's actually very good. It gives a lot of good flavor, and has a salt in it as well as the garlic flavor. So this here I'm going to probably put maybe about a teaspoon in here, maybe 2 teaspoons, teaspoon and a half. I just sort of sprinkle it on. Now you got to be careful with this because it is pretty strong and it is pretty salty, so you don't want to make it over salted because you will taste that in your pork chop. So now what I'm going to do now is just with a fork, I'm going to just mix this all together with our breadcrumbs. Make sure you get a nice thorough mix in there. Okay, that looks pretty good. Alright, that's good just like that. Then I'm going to take 2 eggs, put them in our bowl right here. And now when I use these pork chops that I use here, these are going to be like a center cut pork chop. And I try not to get a pork chop that's too thick. Personally, I don't like thick pork chops. They don't seem to cook as well, and you want to make sure they cook thoroughly in the middle. These are like a medium-sized cut, which are perfect. I kind of like them a little more on the thinner side. So I'm going to take my eggs, I'm going to just scramble them up. And then what I like to do in my eggs, sort of like my secret recipe here, is I put about a teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce in the egg mixture. There you go. And I just scramble that in right there. This is going to add a great flavor to our pork chops. Now, because I'm making the pasta and broccoli as a side dish and I want to save time and make it more efficient, I'm going to go ahead and turn my stove on now to get the water going for my broccoli and my water going for my pasta while we bread this. Now, the broccoli I'm just going to steam it in this pot. So I typically put about 1.5 inches of water on the bottom of the pot, and we're going to steam that. We're going to go back to that in a second. But right now we're going to just concentrate on our pork chops here. So we've got a little assembly line going. We've got our pan, got our pork chops, got our egg mixture, and we got our breadcrumbs. So I'm going to just take a pork chop. I'm going to dip it in the egg. Now I start off with 2 eggs here, and just a cup and a half of breadcrumbs. And if you need to, you can always add to it later on as you go on, which I end up having to do a lot of times. So I just want to start with 2. So I'm going to take my pork chop, dip it in the egg, and then kind of coat it with the breadcrumbs. Just like that. And that looks perfect. We're going to put that right in our pan. Gonna do it again and just keep repeating this step till you get all the pork chops coated and on your baking pan. Dip in the egg mixture right here in our bowl. Put a little more breadcrumbs on there. Perfect. I don't like to put too much breadcrumbs on my pork chops. Kind of limit the amount of carbs you got on there. But what the breadcrumbs do is it's actually a nice touch to the pork chop and actually holds in the moisture, makes them pretty moist. So we're going to go back to the pork chop. Just put it right in here, into our breadcrumb mixture. There we go. I want to get all the sides coated. Good. I try and use a fork because I don't like really handling the pork if I can help it. These look like some pretty good pork chops here. And I think we're going to just make it with the eggs and everything. Looks like it's going to be a perfect mixture. And I do like having a little extra breadcrumbs in there because it's better to coat with. And I kind of keep my pork chops kind of separated there on the cookie sheet. Don't want them to touch each other. On the baking pan, I should say. There you go. Make sure we settle those breadcrumbs so they're all good. Here we go. Just like that. Put that right there. And I'm going to set my oven temperature to 375. Get that going. And these are going to typically go in the oven for about 45 minutes. Okay. I'm going to do another one right here, the last one. And that's good, just like that. There we go. You could just use your fork to pick up and cover the breadcrumbs over your chop like I'm doing right here. This is a kind of a bigger pork chop, bigger than my plate. But that's it. Once you just shake it all off, it's perfect. Okay, got our last one there. And we're good to go. I had my oven on a little bit earlier, so it is the temperature, just about. So I'm going to just stick these in the oven in the middle rack. And we're going to do that for about 45 minutes. And we'll check on it then. See how it's looking. All right, now I got 46 minutes. It'll be good. All right, I'm going to just get rid of this stuff here. And now we're going to go ahead and work on our pasta and broccoli. Get our counter space all cleaned off right here. So what I do with my broccoli is I try and use about 4 medium-sized heads of broccoli. And so 4 sized broccoli about this size, okay? And typically what I'll do is I already did like 3 of the heads already. I just usually cut the bottom off, okay? Because that's going to be the part that's been sitting in the store, gets kind of a little dried out. And I just cut each one of the broccoli into like little florets, each of the florets. I'm going to cut them off just like that. Actually, I'm going to use a different knife because that knife's a little too big for this sort of thing. I'm going to go ahead and use this knife right here. So I'm going to cut the florets off just like this. And I'm going to cook these, steam them actually for about 45 minutes. I'm sorry, not 45 minutes. I'm going to steam the broccoli for 15 minutes. The pork chops are 45 minutes. And what I'm going to do is, I like to kind of keep these broccoli a little like on the, I wouldn't want to say overcooked side, but a little more than just steamed. I do like them a little softer than usual because what happens is I'm going to use a pasta, the cut fusilli, or they might be called spirals, and other stores might call them spirals in different brands. And what this does is, this broccoli will actually adhere to the, will kind of like stick to the swirls of the pasta. And I'll show you what I mean in just a second. It'll adhere to that, kind of gives a nice little texture, a nice little flavor. I like just how the broccoli just sticks to it. And that's it. So I was going to just put those in there, but I think I'm going to just get rid of that for right now. So I'm going to just rinse off my broccoli. Before we go ahead and cook it. Now the first bunch I had already rinsed off earlier. I want to just get it all prepped up beforehand. Now with this, I'm going to just salt my water in the pot to steam the broccoli. And then I'm going to add, like you know me, I love a lot of garlic. Usually you can put about 5 heads of garlic into the pot to steam with this. I put a whole head of garlic in because I do like a lot of garlic with my broccoli. So I'm going to just put this right here on the side. The water's just about ready to boil. I'm going to go ahead and salt that. There you go. Looks like it's coming to a boil. I'm going to go ahead and put my broccoli florets in here. When I put the florets in, it actually takes the temperature down, so it looks like the boiling just kind of stopped a little bit. I'm going to just go ahead and add the rest of my broccoli to my pot. And that's it. So we're going to keep that covered for about 15 minutes. I got my timer ready for the pork chops, so I'll know in about 15 minutes from now to check this out. So I got my pork chops in the oven. They're cooking. Got my broccoli steaming. I got my water for my pasta ready to boil. And we're gonna come back in about 15 minutes, and we're gonna try and put the pasta and broccoli together. Oh, you know what I forgot? Now I'm thinking about the most important part. Forgot to drop my garlic in here. I do steam my garlic in here with my broccoli. I need someone to remind me. I need a reminder here. That's one take, Frank. Take it on one take doesn't always work. But anyway, right over here, if you could see this, this is the cut fusilli pasta I'm using. Or it's a spiral. See how it's all swirled around like that? What happens is once you cook this, the broccoli will adhere to those little swirls, and it's kind of good. It kind of gives you a nice flavor, good texture when you're eating it. So that's why I tend to overcook my broccoli a little bit when I make this, when I mix this together. And this can work with any kind of pasta. I usually like the gemelli, which I've made before. You could use a ziti, rigatoni. You could use cavatelli, like a cavatelli and broccoli if you like. But if you're using cavatelli and broccoli, then I will not cook my broccoli so much. I'll kind of steam it a little less so it stays more intact, like more like a floret for that. So we'll be back in about 14 minutes, and we'll put this pasta and broccoli together, and then we'll go in and we'll see how our pork chop is doing. So everything should just come together, hopefully, in about 15 minutes. So I'll see you guys soon. Okay, our broccoli's done. And I gotta tell you, I put on for a little extra, so it's probably closer to 20 minutes I let it steam for. Just to let you know, I gave an extra 5 minutes so it didn't look like it was ready enough the way I liked it. So again, it's according to your taste how you would like it. So what I'm gonna do right now is, I'm gonna take my broccoli and I'm gonna drain it, get all the water out. And all I really do is I just kind of slip the pot a little bit and I just kind of drain it out that way, get all the water out like that. And I kind of put it back and forth a little bit, shake it, just so we get all the water out. And that's good, because we're going to use this pot as our mixing bowl for the pasta and the broccoli. My pasta's ready too, so I'm going to just drain that. Okay. Give that a good little drain right here. And we're going to come over here to the counter, and I'm going to mix this all together. So I got my broccoli here. Looks perfect. I gotta tell you the truth, I'm gonna take one right now, but I did try one before, so I know it was perfectly cooked. Oh wow, that is hot. I'm gonna wait, but feels perfect. I'm gonna take my pasta and I'm gonna just put it right here in the pot. Just like that. Perfect, perfectly cooked. At least perfect for this. Now I'm going to just use some extra virgin olive oil. I'm going to drizzle some of that on top. There we go. And we're going to just mix it. I usually take it from the bottom, come to the top, just so you get it all mixed together. And as you can see, the broccoli is starting to break apart. That's what I like to happen. And it's going to all start mixing in together. Now we still have about 17 minutes left on our pork chops. So what you can do is, and typically what I do with a meal like this, I'm going to leave this in the pot and I'm going to keep it covered on the stove. It'll stay warm for a while, at least a half an hour or so. And then we're going to just put it into our serving bowl, and we're going to plate our pork chops at the same time. But I just want to get this really mixed up thoroughly here. Good mix. And see, I put a lot of garlic in there, as you can see. These big chunks of garlic. And the reason why I leave them as chunks and I don't mince them or I don't slice them is because a lot of people don't like garlic in their food, like at least some people in my house don't. So at least you can take it out. I personally take a piece like this. Oh, just melts in your mouth. And that is really, literally out of Fountain of Youth, because that is so good for you. So many good benefits of garlic. That is delicious. All right, so see how this looks now? It kind of came together nicely. And see what I mean here with some of these, let me see if I get one for you. See how like the broccoli kind of gets into the cracks of the fusilli? I kind of like that. It's kind of like a little stuffed spiral pasta. And that's why I like it, just like that. It looks pretty good. You got all your pieces in there together. You got some of the stems. So it all works out perfectly. All right, so I'm going to keep this covered. And we're going to come back in about 15 minutes or so. We're going to take a look how our pork chops are doing. And typically, sometimes, if I don't look like, they don't look like they're totally like done to me, sometimes I'll put it on broil for about the last 5 minutes to kind of get a nice brownness to the top of the pork chop. So we're going to come back in about 15 minutes to see how those are doing. Okay, we're back. And we're going to take a look at our pork chops. Just so you know, I put my pork chops in for 5 minutes extra, only because it looked like it needed to be going a little bit longer because of the thickness of the pork chop. So you can use your own discretion on that. 45 minutes is just a good baseline to put them in the oven for. Then when they were done after the 50-minute mark, I put them on broil for about 5 minutes so they get a little color on top. And let's see what we got. They're still sizzling here. Okay. Here's our finished product of the pork chops. So I'm going to go ahead and put them on our plate. Just get this off like that. All right. I'm going to use a metal spatula just so I can scrape off so I don't get the breading on the bottom of the pan stuck to the pan when I'm off on the pork chops. But because we use the olive oil, it did help a little bit. There we go. That's pretty good, just like that. And just take each one off. If you take a look right here on the very edges, where it kind of got caramelized a lot, that's the part that's having a little bit of a hard time getting off. But the actual center of the chop is actually sliding right off. And we're going to do one over here. and one left. Ooh, trying to grab it. You know what? That's not really a good thing to grab it with, but this is. So we'll use that, and there we go. All right, so there we have our pork chops. And I'm going to move our pan. We're going to get our pasta and broccoli next, and we're going to plate that into our pasta bowl. And I left this on the stove just to stay warm, and as you can see, it's still piping hot. So I'm going to just plate that into our serving bowl. Actually, I want to just pick this up, and I'm going to put this in here just like that. And like I said, this whole thing really, from start to finish, probably took us maybe an hour and 5 minutes to do. You know, once you get the hang of it, it'll take you. Sometimes I get done like in an hour. So if you're coming home from work and you want to make a quick meal, that's a good meal. It looks like it took you hours to do. This is a great one to do. Dropping some pasta here. I think this bowl was not big enough, but it looks like it's pretty close. All right, there we go. I got to pick up some pasta there in the end, but it looks pretty good. Okay, there's our pasta with broccoli. Just move this out of the way. And I'm going to put this on a plate and try it out, see how we did. All right, let's give it a go. Get a serving plate right here. Gonna get a pork chop. Gotta give myself a little pasta with broccoli right here. I'm making a mess. Check it out, man. I'm going like all over the place with this. Got to work on my skills for the next one take Frank. All right. That looks good. Got a lot of pasta, man. Too bad you guys weren't close by here. You could eating the full on scraps. All right, I'm going to give this a shot. Before I do, though, I'm going to put a little Parmesan on my pasta with broccoli. Parmesan goes great with this. There you go, a little parm. And I'm going to put a little crushed red pepper, one of my all-time favorites here, right on top of there. All right, that looks good. There you have it. Breaded pork chops with a side of pasta and broccoli. I don't know, should I give it a taste and ruin your presentation there, Cameraman Jonathan? I'm going to give it a try. Let me try this pasta with broccoli first. Perfect. Just right amount of olive oil. The pasta's cooked to perfection. I love the way this broccoli is just kind of steamed perfectly. Melts in your mouth. And let's give this pork chop a try. All right, here we go. Perfectly moist. You can take a look at that. Perfectly cooked all through. The breadcrumbs held the moisture in there. Perfect meal. All right, well, this is One Take Frank. Hope you enjoyed today's recipe, and hope to see you soon. Have a great rest of your day, and don't forget, hit the subscribe button if you like these videos, and that's it. Until I see you again, have a great day. Bye-bye.